Inspector Zahir Ali joins me on the set. I saw Inspector Ali a couple of weeks ago. We were both, of course, running some chores, and he said, Jay, I'm going to be on the set with you soon to really bring some light to some of this darkness that we see and to bring some real working plan and strategies. So I thank Inspector Ali, Officer Ali, for keeping that promise and stepping out this morning to share with us the latest via the TTPS. Inspector, good morning.
Pleasant morning to you, JW. And I don't want to say that it's a pleasure to be here, especially in the present status quo. One would not say that, it's a pleasure to be, engaging the topic that we are about to engage. But, I'm here to lend that support and to entertain any issues, any questions that you may have in the public's interest.
So I'm looking at The Guardian, and there's something I would have brought to you before we went on. I'm watching the story and the development out of Moruga. Very sad one. It's one that is, we are both fathers. It's heartbreaking to see this kind of development. But what grabbed my attention was one of the residents talking about the plight of businesses and contractors down on that side of the country in the Southland. He says here, quote, he says, they're roaming, right, walking around with gun and waste. All contracts, he says, in Moruga being taxed. Now we know what he means there, cover tax, right, extortion. He says, quote, if we don't know it, how, he said, if we know about it, how police don't know, question mark, end quote. I mean, what happens when officers are fully aware that there's a criminal enterprise in an area going around taxing the businesses? What's the plan of action when you get that kind of intelligence?
Now, JW, let me indicate earlier, Clark, that, as a Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we need to be critical with ourselves. And yes, we are police officers, but we are citizens as well. And when you are seeing what has been reported, what you have just read to Trinidad and Tobago, it immediately or should be attracting immediate attention at the very highest level to determine whether, in fact, the police are aware of a person basically impacting the business community, and who knows, maybe it may have been consequential to what we may have seen happening in Moruga. So immediately that should be cause for concern. We need to be critical of ourselves. And just coming to the program this morning, I just had a glimpse at the mission of the TTPS. And the part that I want to highlight this morning is the requirement for professional policing. And this is the important part, high consistent service. In my respectful view, I think that the TTPS, the nation is dependent on us. I made a point last night on another media forum where while you may have persons on oath as police officers, the general public, the police need to now be leading the general public to be able to deal with these sort of issues that you have just read. It is very, very disturbing and concerning, and definitely away from crime in itself, it is also impacting the economics of that particular area in Trinidad and Tobago. So, if I were to respond in summary to that, that should be immediately looking for an inquiry, an audit in that particular division to determine whether, in fact, there's any neglect or duty. Yeah,
because obviously it starts sometimes with a phone call. Very few times someone will actually show up physically, but it starts with a call, a threatening call. And I guess the action, or at least the inaction of businesses after that call is what concerns me, because there are many who will, because they don't want the headache, will pay up. And once you pay once, you'll have to pay forever.
Yes.
And there are those who might, because they have no faith in the system, go get an illegal firearm, which in itself is another problem.
Yes.
Do people still come to officers? Is there that trust that they could really come and call and come to a charge room and say, listen, I now get a call there and this is the case, and feel that there will be a form of protection?
Well, JW, we will be anticipating, and there will be a legitimate expectation that every single police officer at every rank will be approachable by members of the public. But what I want to say to members of the public is that there must be one or two persons that you trust that you can go to, even if they are not within your division or your station. There must be somebody that you can now disseminate that information to so that they can act upon it. But just to digress a little bit in relation to why we may have been looking at a demanding money by menace, or as they call it, extortion. JW, if we are not using intellect and being critical in terms of the use of our laws and our investigative strategies, when a person comes or makes a demand, even if the monies are not handed over, apart from the demanding money by menace under the Larceny Act, under the Offences Against the Person Act, it also can amount to a course of conduct that alarms or distress a person. So I'm saying that in the context, are you really exploring the various legislation to get an opportunity to be able to nip that crime immediately with whatever legislation may be available to you? So that's one point. And the second thing is, I want to make a call to the Parliament again this morning, JW, using your platform. The Parliament has been commended in recent times with the whistleblower legislation and the amendment to the Bail Act. I think that if this country is seeing a serious problem with demanding money by menace and extortion, we should be excited to go back to the Parliament and look at these penalties that are associated with the demanding money by menace and the extortion to ensure that at least as a first step, persons will be contemplating, okay, if I'm caught, if the crime is detected, that it's a very serious penalty that I'm going to face. And to complement that, the recent Bail Act that we had, Bail Act 20 of 2024, again, I'm calling on the Parliament again to revisit that legislation and see in the schedule of offences whether they have placed demanding money by menace and the Offences Against the Person Act within that schedule to be able to have the full teeth when we are fighting this very, very serious issue.
Yeah, it is indeed, and I'm happy that at least, you're putting out the energy, putting out some suggestions where we could really get all the players, the entire judicial ecosystem, the security ecosystem on the same page so we could send a message. I've been talking that for months here now. I'm talking about messaging.
Yes.
Why do people act a certain way in other jurisdictions? The enforcement is severe.
Yes.
Everywhere have laws, we have laws too.
Yes.
But it's the enforcement, the detection, that passion and motivation to go out there and to nip it in the bud and to catch the criminals. I'm watching numbers. I know when top brass, when the TTPS talk, they always pull the stats and talk numbers. Well, I mean, the numbers not looking good at all. I'm watching 402, 22 more murders as of today compared to last year around the same time. And then we're hearing of a 20th murder in Tobago. What's the working plan so we could bring some kind of normalcy towards the end of this 2024?
Well, JW, let me indicate immediately. While we may have quoted, or you may have quoted the statistics, and we have seen that as a practice. I want to say that that child, that 5-year-old, that daughter of the soil, who have lost her life in a status quo where it is associated with serious violence. I don't need to look at 402 or 26 less than, and that sort of comparison. That in itself should be sufficient for every decision maker to be sitting this morning contemplating the next step to be able to deal and respond to this particular issue. This child, who knows whether that child may have been the next commissioner of police, whether that child may have been the next surgeon that one of us may have to depend on to save our life. And here it is that that life has been snatched away. You reported a short while ago that we are fathers. And I don't know, I mean, saying condolences may be very cheap in these circumstances. And I want to take this opportunity to call on Trinidad and Tobago to recognize that when we are speaking about violent crime and gangs, at this point in time, you do not know where gangs or where violent crime will be perpetrated. And the collateral damage that we are seeing, this is our nation youths, and it's not the first time we are seeing this. Some time ago, we saw another young child, I think was along the Gonzales, the Port of Spain division, again with conflict with gangs, and lost his life. So I'm not about statistics, JW. I think that this particular morning, and it's unfortunate that we have to now point to a particular scenario to wake us up. This requires immediate action. And when I mean immediate action, I mean immediate action to be able to at least bring justice to this trial and let it start to turn this thing around.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And Inspector Ali, I want to thank you. I mean, obviously, you're always very passionate in your delivery, and I know that you and your colleagues, you try your best under the circumstances. And I want you to keep us in tune with all developments, all strategy, all plans. The chair is always available, and indeed, I thank you for coming out today for our Police and News segment.
Thank you very much for having me, JW.
For sure. Inspector Ali, of course, from the legal side of things there, under the umbrella of the TTPS. We take a quick pause, and we come back with more. See you soon.